Hello everybody, welcome to my log.
Great. This video is all about my contextual research. Contextual research is very important to me, and I'm going to try and make this video not as boring as I possibly can. I want to try and make this interesting, but it's not going to be as visually stimulating, I would say, but it's mentally stimulating, so that's good, and that's what contextual research is for. Yeah, so I hope this is decent, and let's give it a whirl.
So I decided to start recording this voiceover whilst eating an apple. You get some free ASMR, you're welcome. Okay, so I will be going through my Miro page. I will be talking in depth about specific things. I will skip through things if it wasn't as helpful for me. If I have any breakthroughs, I'll let you know. If it's not that important, I probably won't show it, but let's begin. So the first artist which I was recommended to look at was Vito Acconci. I was originally recommended him, I think, due to his use of his body within his art and his performances. However, I ended up coming across some of his poems, and they really, really inspired me, actually. They seem to explain different forms of power exchange and tease out ways in which people dominate and control each other. And I really liked how he keeps you guessing, both within his poems and text and within his artwork as well. I don't know why I was surprised, but I also found some very interesting books that he had written in which he had explained different kind of power dynamic structures. The first was Vito Acconci, Making Public. I have had for such a long time this interest in the boundaries between public and private spaces, and then he just so eloquently explains how underneath these civilities and appearances and underneath clothes is a seething mass of anger and desire, and therefore these public spaces are function as containers of bodies. It's really interesting how you have this, and then you have a public space is a civic space and civilized place with its boundaries in the world of civility, manners and codes. Everyone has a right to be there as long as they follow the rules of the public space. So in a sense, it's both civilized and animalistic. It's a place which is a battleground, but you should also be courteous. It's incredibly contradictory. I think this really opened my eyes to how I use the public and private spheres within my own work, and viewing these spaces as a game-playing zone is far more interesting when you contradict it to what society expects of you. This book is just called Vito Acconci. This is another book that I liked and I found really useful. I liked the ways that he was describing diluting a work down to its bare bones of intention and designing the artwork for that intention. And for example, this is followed on here when he talks about, he gives himself sort of terms. So he's creating these rules to explore the work in a very specific way. Yes, I also looked at this book, and what I really liked about this book specifically was on this page here, which says, I put poetry at the bottom of hierarchy of arts, not because it's lesser, but because it's the base. It's the undercurrent, the substructure of the arts, but as a base, it's only a beginning. It has nothing to do with concentration of language or distillation of language. Poetry is an attempt to get through language and arrive at a state of pre-language. It is a cry, gasp, a screech. Poetry is thinking, or maybe only feeling. In opposites, poetry is fluidity between opposites. I loved the fact that it is this feeling, it's this initial reaction to something, and then he builds these works on top of it. Same with his terms. Okay, so that's enough fangirling over Vito Acconci. I've been spending a lot of time researching body artists, those who express inner feelings through using their outer shell. I've been exploring how the presence of the artist can create gestural marks on the canvas or the skin itself. This amazing book called The Artist's Body does what it says on the tin. And here are a few of my pages that I scanned through. I absolutely love this book because it was really, really good at me trying to figure out why I wanted to use my body in my work in the first place. I realised that the issue with looking at the body artist was I don't feel like a performance artist. I don't feel comfortable in a performance mode at this point. Maybe in the future will change, who knows. I used to hate video, so anything can happen. And I want some kind of detachment away from the audience. I like there being me being used, but me being used away from them. They can only sort of view it at a later time. And that is why I started researching video art. I don't want to just document performances that I do. I don't view them as performances. I view them as a piece of art, and I'm separate from it to some degree. And a lot of research that I found was that that's what the early video artists did. They used their bodies to try and express their inner feelings through video. So I took out this video sculptor book from 1963 to 1989. And the reason why I took this out is because I wanted to get as much information as possible about where video sculpture, where video art, where video installation came from in order for me to find out where I fit, because otherwise I'd never researched this stuff before, and otherwise how am I meant to know where it started, why people started using it, how people started using it, what form of layouts people use. I realised that my favourite works were ones that incorporated natural elements as well, so ones that involved sand, water, rocks, some kind of natural material, or alternatively ones that created an environment. I think water has really interested me for a while, and the fact that electronics and water really don't mix is a really interesting mix in itself. And that is something that I definitely want to explore further in terms of reflections of imagery within water. After the video sculptor book, I then went on to research Gary Hill, and I really liked how he kind of fixates on the ponderous connection between language and communication and the disconnect between language and experience. I also really like how within his film pieces, they tend to be very edited in a very choppy way, in which abandons any sort of lineal narrative, and it makes people have to embrace this madness and this chaos to try and understand what the artist's intention of the narrative actually is. An artist I found that also used fragmentation within their work is Jeroen Kooijmans. Firstly, I really like how the artist physically plays with time within the constructions of his video works. They have a continuous duration, so the work itself is somewhat immortal and will outlive us, and our memory of how we feel when we initially watch it. He plays between real-life space-time as well as forging these fake space-times, allowing us, the audience, to differentiate between what he's trying to tell us. By incorporating so many distractions, it allows the audience to try and work out how everything fits together and if it's really important or not. I really want to play around with projection mapping because I think that this is a perfect way to break up video imagery within an installation format. So I could go on and on about different video artists, but these are the ones that have really inspired me the most at the moment. The other thing I could include within this log is the artists that I've looked at that use light. However, that's going to be included within my Morse code log, so I don't feel the need to double the work. The final artist I'm going to look at for this log is Douglas Gordon. He is a new artist for me. I'd heard of him before, however, I didn't really know what work he did or what he was about. And I took out this book from the library called Kidnapping, and it was the best decision I've ever made. I think Douglas Gordon is a bloody king. I read a quote by him that says, if you want to find the truth in something, take it apart piece by piece, then put it back together with the detail of a forensic scientist. And that's exactly what he does. He investigates moral and ethical questions, mental and physical states, as well as collective memory and selfhood. I love how he uses duality within his work. I love how he uses text within his work. I love how it makes people feel uncomfortable. I love how there's a line between the good and the bad, and he's really sort of questioning where that line is drawn in the sand. Overall, I think he's my new favourite artist, and I'm really excited to continue researching him and keep sort of making work that's inspired by him. That because he's a multidisciplinary artist, he used so many different ways in order to express himself, and he uses lots of different stimuli in order to get ideas from film, from music, everything. And it doesn't seem elitist at all. Art that isn't elitist. I like art that is about everyday life, and yeah, he's great.
Yes, I have edited this video up to this point. I've found actually through editing this video the key strands that I'm interested in at the moment. I don't really want to repeat myself, but I'm going to all the same. I think what I'm finding most interesting at the moment is fragmentation, playing with time, playing with someone's comfort level, I guess. And I think if you play with time through fragmentation, it makes people feel uncomfortable. And text as well. So yeah, that's the end of this for now. I will continue adding to this log, as I say in every one, and I hope this is okay.